Hello friends, this is Dr. Abdul Mubin A. Mundewadi from Mundewadi Ayurvedic Clinic. In today's video, we will discuss the Ayurvedic herbal treatment of a disease which is known as bladder incompetence. Now first of all, let us know how the bladder works. When I am talking of the bladder, it is the urinary bladder, of course. Now the urinary bladder is controlled by a so-called sphincter, which is controlled by the muscles and muscles especially of the pelvic floor. Now usually all human beings learn to control the urine urge by contracting the muscles and keeping the sphincter closed. And when urine fills up in the urinary bladder, it swells like a balloon, and we get the urge to pass urine. And this control gradually comes about as we age. We all know that small children cannot control the urine urge, but gradually as they grow older, then they are able to control the urine urge. They know when to pass urine. They know how to pass urine on their own with full control of their pelvic muscles, and they can retain the urine throughout the night without wetting the bed. So this is the common way in which urine is controlled. Now, what is bladder incompetence? This is something where the control of urine is not there, and urine is passed. It may pass in full, or it may dribble down little, or come about as drops. So the control which is there, that is not there. Now this is known as bladder incompetence. Now, what can be the causes for this? Trauma, surgical nerve damage, infections, inflammation, and neurological disorders. Sometimes tumors. Now these are the known causes for this condition. So of course bladder incompetence has to be treated as per the known cause and the presenting history along with the clinical signs and symptoms. So the treatment is aimed at treating the known cause, of course. Remove the cause and you can then treat the bladder incompetence. And of course treatment is aimed at treating the damaged or the dysfunctional bladder. Now the bladder muscle, the sphincter, supplying nerves, and the pelvic floor muscles are the common treatment targets for this incompetent bladder. Treatment time is usually around 4 to 6 months. That depends upon the cause and the severity. And treatment for tumors and severe nerve damage may take a longer time. So usually, what is the Ayurvedic treatment for this? Now Ayurvedic medicines are used to remove the cause, as I said earlier. If there is infection, if there is nerve damage, you have to treat that. But mostly we have to treat the bladder muscle and the pelvic floor muscles. So the bladder muscle is the most common target, and usually we are seeing a lot of patients nowadays who have chronic subacute infection, and that gradually damages the bladder muscle wall to such an extent that gradually the bladder becomes inactive. So this needs to be treated well, and you need to treat the inflammation and swelling in the bladder muscle, the weakness in the bladder muscles, and along with that the bladder should be reactivated, the bladder wall, the bladder muscle should be reactivated so that it becomes sensitive to the pressure changes in the urinary bladder. So Ayurvedic herbs which act on this, on the urinary tract, on the sphincter, on the nerves, and on the muscles. So for all these are targets for the treatment. So Ayurvedic herbal medicines are used usually for around 4 to 6 months. Usually in 1 or 2 months itself, you start getting improvement, and gradually you have to see what response is there, and accordingly you can modify the medications. In some people, a special form of treatment known as Uttar Basti may also be used, and it has been proved to be useful in some few patients. But most of the patients, more than 80 to 90% patients, benefit with Ayurvedic oral medication itself. And the combination has to be tailor-made according to the known causes for that particular patient and how the bladder incompetence came about. So you have to see the chronological history, and accordingly you have to give medicines to reverse the condition. So friends, this is a short description of Ayurvedic herbal treatment for bladder incompetence. Let's meet in the next video. Goodbye.